Ambuj, I'd like to start with you. I'm going to quickly describe like a CV, the external factors of your story, because what we really want to probe is the more internal landscape that led to that. So as I said, you're someone who's a psychology student, you're a slam poet, and yet you tried to commit suicide. You're a high achiever, you've been getting 95%, but you've been self-harming since you were the age of 11. And you were diagnosed with ADHD when you were about 4 years old. So would you help the audience understand what was the trigger incident when you were 11 that began to make all of your anxiety manifest itself like this?
Is this what? Oh, yeah, hi. Wow, there are so many people. So I started self-harming at age 11. The trigger was academics. And I think that has been a big part of the triggers throughout the years, throughout the worst phases of my life. Being a high-achieving student, when you've had over 95% of a grade throughout your life, even a 90% seems like too much of a drop. When the entire world is telling you, you can do better, you can do better, you can do better. And suddenly you feel like, I don't want to do better, I want to try out other things in life. And when there is that sudden drop in marks, you feel like the world is closing in around you. Everything is coming to an end. So it mainly began as an outlet for that. It exacerbated. I was in military school for 2 years. I was age 13 to around 15. I was there, and there the ADHD got better of me because I already have an issue organizing things, and their organization is a big deal in any military institution. So yeah, left, right, and center, a lot of punishments for my batch were the fault of mine, and that's where I think the first mega negative spiral in my life happened. Then after that, again, academic pressures. And I think that's actually a problem with anyone who has a mental illness and yet can be a high achiever. Because people who have severe enough mental illnesses that their daily life comes to a standstill, they become dysfunctional, they're already suffering enough. While those who do not have that severe of an issue, when they're not given the support, when they're not given the accommodations, when the system is structured in a way that's against them, they already begin to suffer just as much as the former described group.
So Ambuj, I'll come back to you because you described your experience in military school, and you said one of the pressures was that there was so much of mandated punishment, that any little slip on your part, your friends and your entire your batch was being punished for things that you were doing. So that was one pressure. And this idea of control, when things are going out of control, what you do. But before that, Arshya, I want to bring you in. As I described again, that you've been a high achiever all your life, as much as it's possible for a young person to be. And yet you stopped eating and completely, you were anorexic to a point where at one point you dropped to 29 kilos, you passed out in school, you were hospitalized. Again, will you share with us what was your trigger episode? Why in what would look to everyone as a very successful life, why did you feel such helplessness?
I think in the Indian culture, a lot of love is expressed through food. So I grew up as a child, loving all these Indian sweets, gulab jamun, rasgulla, puri aloo, all the things that I think all of us really love. And I would see a healthy child, a little on the plump side. So I had, doctors telling me that, she's growing fine, but she could do with a kilo or two less. So that was always there. And as you mentioned, I did play football at a really young age. I was playing under 19 when I was 12 years old. So there's a lot of exposure when you're going out with people and you're playing with girls who are 19 years old. And you're seeing these girls who, have boyfriends, and you're at this age where, your hormones are jumping, and you also want to have boyfriends. You want to be popular. You want to have that physique that, really entices everyone else. So I would see them eating quite a useless, you could say a negligible amount of lunch, and they would eat a lot of junk food. But what I picked on was that they're not eating lunch, but they're still being able to play. So why can't I do that? Why, if they can look the way they are, I can also be like that. And therefore, I wanted to look like them, and I stopped eating.
You've spoken about that being one trigger about why you stopped eating. But you know, there was more in your life, and there was a particular episode which really tipped you over the edge into acute depression, was when you went to camp. And you know, I think one of the things we want to explore is just what your peer environment and friendships, you know, what is that landscape of vulnerability that we don't even recognize? Would you share that episode?
So I think friendship has to be mutual. Only then can it be called friendship. Otherwise, it's not friendship. It's just unilateral, and that way friendship does not exist. So I think when you have friends who are who go as long as 8-9 years long back with you, then you have certain expectations. You reside certain trusts in them, and when that trust is sort of betrayed, when you feel let down, then it's you feel terrible. And when when you're let down by a group of people, it's 3 or 4 times the letdown that you feel. And when too many things happen all of a sudden, for me, it was me going for football, it was me going for camp. So depression and anorexia started for me at the same time, due to which its impact was so much.